In this video, I made another tier list, and I'm going to showcase it to you all. Now, this tier list is going to be a bit different, since it's not going to be entirely placement based. It's going to be more of the tiers, so two characters in the same tier are basically as viable, but think of it a bit as the more left, the better it is, but more the tiers, because every character in that tier are going to be basically useful for what they're doing. I'm going to mention what they do and what they're good for and stuff like that. But before I go into the tier list as well, I just wanted to say that if you don't like our tier list, then first of all, you don't have to listen to them. We're no factbook, we're just regular players. Second of all, if you do think something's wrong, make sure to test the character compared to the characters we've tested and show me in-game proof. I'm not going to change anything in my tier list unless you show me actual evidence that it is incorrect. We go off numbers, and the reason why we do this all the time is because we have nothing left to do. We've killed the raid bosses, we've done everything, we speedrun everything basically. We don't have anything else to do. The only thing we can do is test out new characters. So that's what we do. That's going to be the tier list basically. If you don't agree with anything, then test it out yourself, okay? Obito is good, for example. Don't say that Obito doesn't deserve the ranking he has just because you haven't tested him, for example. But if you do find something that you think is incorrect, and it actually is incorrect, test it out, send me a DM, I will look into it myself, and I might change something. So let's just get into the tier list. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't know, I'm making a giveaway because I hit 15,000 subscribers, so if you want to join that, then join my Discord server and subscribe to the channel, and let's just begin. This is an overall tier list, so I basically count in how good they are as an assist, a raid character, and dimension character. So overall, and how useful they are. Basically, overall usefulness, how if you were to get that character, how much use would you get out of that character, like for everything. So yeah. And if you want to see what's meta for every gamer, then just skip to the end, I have it there. If we begin at the bottom, then we have 4 characters that are basically trash at everything. They're trash in dimensions, trash at raid, they're trash as an assist in both game modes. They're just not worth it at all. We have Priestess with the Awakening, and even without the Awakening, she's kind of useless. We've got Esdeath, Demon Lord Rimuru, and Gear 5 Luffy. These 3 are raid characters, and they're really bad compared to the other ones. They don't deal any damage, they're very bad. They're 3 worst characters in raids for the raid characters that are limited, if you count in Gear 5 Luffy as limited, because he was. And they're really bad in dimensions because they don't have any mobility and anything, and they can't compete at anything, and the assists aren't even that good either. They're like below average, which is not good at all. When you go up a tier, they're slightly better, but they're still not something you want to get. We got Yorichi, we got Toga, we got Katakuri, and we got Levi. Yorichi isn't that much better than the other ones as a main. The thing is, he's not trash since he actually does have a use in dimension with his mobility. And he also has a very good assist compared to those 3 at the bottom there. His assist is a bit above average, and the AoE is actually good, just that you'd rather use someone else, but it's actually fine. But he also got that use for dimensions, but he really isn't good at all. Though you could basically put him to more left, but I remember this is less placement based and more tier based. So Yorichi, either you use Levi or you use Yorichi, basically doesn't matter. But yeah, these are bad for everything. You don't really have to use them for anything specific. Whenever I say that characters are good for something, then I'll start mentioning what they're good for. But yeah, they're not real good at anything here, even though most of them got mobility, but they can't utilize it that well in dimensions. Their damage is very bad. Assists aren't good either. Here we have characters that are bad for most things. So Astolfo is bad for most things compared to these characters. Though Astolfo, you could argue that Astolfo, he's very good for a gem character in raids and dimensions. Well, that's true, yes. You can't get him anymore for the first part, so like why would he be like someone you should consider? But in general, he's not used more than characters you can get easily, either way. Stuff like, there are better dimension characters that are really easy to get as well. There are a lot of raid characters that can get easily as well, so just has no use, really, and assist sucks. The one exception I have, with no support and everything, is that Astolfo is like meta for support, so Astolfo is kind of bad for most things, but he can actually be the crucial part of a world record in a raid, for example. We got Rengoku and Kirito. They're both decent assists, Rengoku being pretty good actually, but as mains, they're really not that good. They both can compete in dimensions. They can perform quite well, but they're not good at dimensions. They're only like viable in dimensions, so they're not good at it. And in raids, they're really not good at it. They're kind of bad at it. And their assists, well, Rengoku is one of the best assists if you don't have an awakening, and Kirito is like top 20. There are so many other assists that you would want to get right now, especially when there are awakenings, so you would rather have them awakened, but never use them in their regular form. We also have Gilgamesh and Broly. They are really bad in dimensions, as you can imagine. Not that good, just very slow, very slow characters, and the damage just doesn't keep up either. Very, very low damage in raids. Thing is, they actually have a very good assist. Still not like meta assist anymore though, because there are awakenings. But yeah, they are quite good assists, so that's why they're not bad for everything, I would say. Gojo is one of the best characters in raids, like top 5 definitely, but he's just very bad at everything else. Dimensions, he sucks. And as an assist, he does have the same DPS as like Saber, Unawakened, and Zenitsu and Genos. But that's only if he crits. On average, with 50% crit chance, that's when his average DPS is the same. If you don't crit with him, he's really bad. And the thing is, Gojo is only ever good if you have good stats and Kurumi either way. So he really is just bad for most things. So I put him there, and Naruto is also bad for most things. The only thing he's somewhat good for is as an assist. So yeah, and his assist isn't even meta anymore because there are awakenings. So yeah, that's basically it. Here we got characters that are average, and those aren't like, they aren't meta, they aren't not meta, they're viable, but you'd rather use someone else. They're average. 2 of them are actually meta, but it's a specific case. Here you can see we have Alice. Alice is actually pretty good. She is worse than Broly in raids, but a bit better than Gilgamesh in raids, but she's a lot better in dimensions, and yeah, that just counters it. It's barely worse. She's barely worse than Broly in raids, and she's a lot better in dimensions. And her assist is also good. So Alice is actually like a good assist with a good set to clear dimensions quite fast, and is kind of bad at dimension or raids. But yeah, that should, if she's somewhat good in 2 of them, and then pretty bad in 1, I would say that she's kind of average. Here we have 2 similar characters, very bad mains, Saber Awaken and Witch Megaman. Saber Awaken doesn't get any like stat bonuses with her awakening move like the other ones, so she actually isn't that good as a main, even with her awakening skill. She is not that good in raids, she's not that good in dimensions, same with Witch Megaman, she's not good in raids, she's not good in dimensions. The reason why I put Saber above Witch Megaman is because those 2 are meta. Saber Awaken is meta assist for raids, while Witch Megaman is meta assist for what is it called? Dimensions. But yeah, it's less of placements and more tiers, so everyone in this tier could be like interchanged. They have their own strength, own weaknesses, and it goes to every tier tier I've already mentioned. But to somewhat explain my position here, and raids is more important than dimensions currently. We have Katakuri summer version. He's just very average at dimensions, very average in raids, very average as assist. He's literally in the middle of everything, basically. So he's the definition of average. His assist is probably like in the middle of everything. If you count in gem characters and stuff like that as well. His raid damage is like in the middle as well, and his dimension times is also kinda in the middle. He's really average. You could use him in any game mode, but you wouldn't really have him as a good character in every game mode. But he's not bad at everything necessarily. We got Luffy, the new Vampire King, and he's actually quite bad if you haven't noticed. His assist is kind of fine. It's less damage than like Rengoku's, obviously, but the AoE is kind of fine, though the initiating time to put it up does kind of hurt it. So I can see the assist being quite good in like time challenge. The AoE is kind of good with 60-second cooldown, but that time challenge doesn't really matter. In dimensions, maybe, but you'd rather use Nezuko. It just quicker damage and more damage at same cooldown. And in raids, the damage is just so much worse than Rengoku's, for example, so you wouldn't want it. So pretty bad assist, pretty average assist, I would rather say. But in raids and dimensions, he's worse than like Zoro. Zoro, the one I'll talk about later. He's worse than Zoro. So he definitely deserves to be below Zoro, but he's not that bad. He can get like... He can easily get 1 billion without the damage buffs from other characters. He can easily get that. In a full raid, he would probably get like... Yeah, he could definitely reach like 1.4 billion damage, and with those other things, it would be like close to 4 billion. He's not that bad, and in dimensions, he does have an ability, so he's not that bad. But just like Katakuri's summer version, he's just kind of average. Eren and Infinity Gojo have very bad assists, both of them, 90-second cooldowns and very low damage. Very bad assists, but they're actually fine in raids, especially if you don't have Kurumi with Eren. Eren is actually better without Kurumi than with Kurumi. One of the best characters without Kurumi is Eren, because he doesn't benefit from Kurumi, really. You can just use another pet that is better for him. And they're both kind of good in dimensions, or in raids, because they have these reset skills. You can deal a lot of damage, though the energy gain is quite low. So in dimensions, they don't perform the best. They're kind of slow, they don't have that much mobility, and they're kind of slow, but in raids, they're fine. They're pretty good. In dimensions, they're average, and as an assist, they're really bad. Here we get some characters that are good for most things, and I'll obviously mention what they're good for, and so on. Zoro is good for... Well, he's a good dimension clearer. He's actually a good dimension clearer. He can be slightly worse than Kokoshiba and stuff like that, obviously, but those are really good characters. But he's actually a good dimension guy. Good for most, and he's okay in raids as well. He's not the best, but he's viable, definitely. And his assist is kind of bad, both for raids and dimensions. His assist is just really bad, but he's actually a really good dimension clearer, and in raids he's fine, so I would put him here. You could argue that Alice is also really good in dimensions, but no, Zoro is definitely better than Alice in dimensions by a lot, so I'm putting Zoro at the bottom of good for most things. We also have two Awakenings, Gear 5 Luffy and Rimuru. So both of them have good assists, obviously. Awakenings always have good assists. I would say that Rimuru's assist is better though, because 60-second cooldown, that's primarily it. You can get the damage buff from the assist more often, so Rimuru's is just better. Speaking of dimensions, they're okay. They both have damage buffs, so they can actually kill everything quickly. They have okay AoE, and they're not the best for dimensions, definitely not, but they're actually like, they would be average if it was like a dimension tier list, because they actually could beat it quite fast. But on raids, that's where they shine, because they get those damage buffs, and Rimuru gets it for 45 seconds, critical chance and attack and speed. So it's like, yeah, they deal a lot of damage in raids. They're good for most things, actually. So yeah, Priestess is She's just an overall good character. Just like the characters in Average, just like Katakuri Summer, she's like one of those characters, but good for everything, not average for everything. Assist, pretty average though, but for main and main in Dimensions and Raid, she's actually quite good. She deals a lot of damage, and in Dimensions she's fine. She's actually really good. She's good for most things, and her assist isn't like good, but she's average on assist, so I would say that she's good for most things. You could use her for everything basically. Then we have 3 very similar characters, and I guess Milim as well. We have Tengen, Kokushibo, Ryuko, and then Milim. Tengen, Kokushibo, and Ryuko are all good assists. Ryuko being the best assists, and Kokushibo and Tengen having like a tied one. Tengen is very inconsistent. He can vary with the damage very much. But yeah, in general, they have very good assists. They're also very good in Dimensions, as you can tell. These guys are like Dimension mains. They are meant for Dimensions basically. Very good in Dimensions. But in Raids, that's where they're lacking. They don't deal that much damage in Raids. You'd rather use many other characters, even a few characters below these guys in Raids, but they're very good in Dimensions, very good as assists, and average in Raids. So I would definitely say that they're very high up on the good for most things. Then we have Milim. She's not a good assist, but she is the best character for Raids, and she's not even that bad for Dimensions. She's like on the level with like Zoro, Alice, those guys, and that's not too bad even. That's better than average, and she's the best character in Raids. So I would definitely say that Milim deserves a spot up here, if not even higher up. Here we have characters that are good for everything. They're good for everything. Like, actually, they're good for everything. There's no downside, really. Sure, they might be worse at something than others, but they're still good at it. So we have 2 Awakenings. We have Kirito and Rengoku. Assists, very good. Kirito is the best assist in the game. So, yeah, what can you say about that? Rengoku is also really good, but just not as good as Kirito. In Raids, they're both really good. They get those stat bonuses, or they get extra stats, and they're just really good. They're really strong in Raids. And Dimensions, they both have mobility, they both have very good moves for Dimensions, so they can easily do fast times in Dimensions. They're really good at everything, basically. Though they're not meta at anything, so yeah, they're just good for everything. We also have Nezuko. Nezuko is good for everything. Her assist is really good, the best assist, speaking of no awakenings. And she's one of the best characters without Kurumi as well, just like Eren. She doesn't benefit with Kurumi, but even with Kurumi, she's actually quite good in Raids. And in Dimensions, surprisingly, she's pretty good, even though she has no mobility and not even a lot of like attacks that are good for Dimensions. She's actually just really good in Dimensions as well. She can compete with like Tengen, Kokushibo, Ryuko if you're actually really good with Nezuko, so she's actually good for everything. Levi, Awakened, is really good. He has a good assist, just like every other Awakening, and he's awesome at Raids. He is so good at Raids. He's one of the best characters if you have him Awakened for Raids. Very good, very strong. And for Dimensions, he's obviously also good. He has a mobility, he has an Awakening, just he's a character meant for Dimensions, and yeah. Levi is just good for everything. Obito and Naruto, unawakened. There are 2 more raid characters here, and the assists are kinda okay. They're average. Naruto's is like the same damage as Gilgamesh, though less AoE, and Obito is just less damage overall. So the assists are kinda they're better than average, I would say. But they're not meta or anything, but where they shine are the mains. Obito and Naruto are really good in Raids. They are slightly worse than the ones above them on the tier list here. They're really solid in Raids. Like, you can't say anything else. They're just really solid in Raids. It's basically just they can deal a lot of damage. They're really good characters, and for Dimensions, they're also really good. Just very easy. If you don't know how good Obito is, because you don't see anyone saying like, oh, why Obito, is because Naruto and Shank, the current ones, are just better than him. Obito is by no means bad. He's really good, really strong in raids, really strong in raids actually, and he's really good in dimensions as well. So yeah, he's good for everything. There's no downside to him. He's almost better than good for everything. Better than good for everything. We got amazing at everything. So we got Shanks, Accelerator, and Naruto Awaken. Shanks and Accelerator are basically the same characters. I'm not even joking. They both have similar ultimates where they're very slow. They both have very similar first and second skills where they're kind of fast, and third skill resets both 1 and 2 once. They're literally the same moveset basically. And then the assists deal this exact same damage, and in raids they perform basically exactly the same, and in dimensions they basically perform exactly as well. So they're basically the same character. The thing is, Accelerator is more like used as an assist than Shanks. So I guess you can use Accelerator a bit more than Shanks, but if you don't have good stats, then Shanks is probably easier to use, because Shanks actually provides you with extra stats, while Accelerator buffs your current attack a percent wise, which is also like buffs your attack, but it's just for a certain moves, and it's just Shanks is easier for new players with worse stats, basically, more beginner friendly, and you can get Shanks right now, I guess. We also got Naruto Awaken. He's just amazing assist, good. He's an awakening, so obviously amazing assist. And for a main, in raids he's the second best character in the game. For dimensions he's the second best character in the game. So just amazing at everything, obviously. And that brings us to the best character in the game. God at everything. Shadow Monarch is just good at everything. He's so good in dimensions. He is the best character in dimensions by like 20 seconds. I'm not even joking. And in raids he's basically the best character, just that Milim beats him barely. Even then, like, Shadow Monarch is going to be better than Milim unless you have very good stats and Kurumi. If you don't have that, then Shadow Monarch is definitely going to be better. And Shadow Monarch is just, even if you count that Milim is better than him, he's just like, yeah, he's the second best character in the game. Oh, and for best character in the game, second best raid character in the game, which bring him to god at everything, basically. I accidentally said that Naruto is second best in raids. He's actually the third best. Milim is better. I don't know why I blundered there, but yeah. Shadow Monarch as an assist is, he's not like underrated, but he is better than people think he is. The damage of Shadow Monarch's assist is really bad. The thing is, he does get 25% more critical chance. Now think of it this way, Awakenings only give you 15% critical chance, like Naruto Awaken and Rengoku Awaken, only 15%. Shadow Monarch gives you 25% for less time. Sure, it's less time, but I would argue that it's still really good. I would say that Shadow Monarch's assist is worse than Awakenings, because it's less than 15 seconds, but it's more of a stat boost. It's 25%, and the AoE is really good. So in dimensions, he's actually pretty viable as an assist, but you'd rather use him as a main. So, but yeah, his assist is actually much better than a lot of people think. So I would argue that Shadow Monarch is god at everything, and he is the best character in the game. But in general, the dimension meta, the meta character for dimensions, is Shadow Monarch. While the raid meta, the character's meta for raid, is Milim, but also Shadow Monarch, I guess, somewhat. Shadow Monarch is better than Milim if you do not have Astolfo. If you don't have an Astolfo that buffs you. Otherwise, Milim is better. So I'm putting both of them there. Dementia assists, the meta for assists in dimensions is Witch Megaman and Accelerator, but if you don't have Witch Megaman, you can also use Accelerator as second assist. So, well, Shadow Accelerator as a second assist. That's what I'm doing, for example, a few times. And then the meta for raids as assists is Kirito and Saber, unless you're doing like, if you're counting the damage buffs. Obviously, if you're playing Shanks raid, then Shanks is the best to have assist, and Zoro as well, because they give damage buffs. But in general, if you don't count in damage buffs, which I didn't count in any damage buffs in the whole tier list, it's Kirito and Saber Awakened. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the change of pace in this video because, well, the tier list is a bit different. Less placement based and more tier based. Sure, some characters are in the same tier while having different strengths and weaknesses, but they're basically as useful when it comes to usefulness, because all my tier lists right now are by usefulness. But if you want any other tier list, like specifically for raids, specifically for dimensions, specifically for assists, and then accessories, pets, everything like that, I can make those as well. I just need to have more time to make them, because assists, I have damage, pure damage, but if I do make another one, it's probably not going to be pure damage, more usefulness. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video and see you in the next one.